It's the scandal that nobody anticipated, but everyone is talking about Kirk Frost and Mendeecees Harris, two of the most contentious people in the history of hip-hop and love, who were recently banned from reality TV. Their time in the spotlight has ended abruptly and shockingly after years of drama, betrayals, and headline-grabbing events. But why did the producers decide to do this dramatic decision? Witnesses claim that it all began with a violent argument backstage that was so hot and chaotic that security was unable to control the scene. Before anyone realized it, cameras were rolling and tempers were blazing. Hold on, there's more to this. After years of being reality TV royalty, Kirk and Mendeecees are supposedly done for good. There will be no more cameras or confessionals, just a harsh reality that they never anticipated. More than what is being reported, was this really a single altercation? Or was there something far more significant brewing in the background, including betrayals, hidden alliances, and startling revelations? This scandal is more complex than anyone could have predicted. The tension between Kirk Frost and Mendeecees Harris had been boiling beneath the surface for weeks, but no one anticipated it to explode into pandemonium. Stay tuned, because we're going to break it all down. After the show was filmed, the cast members were meant to vent their frustrations in a private, closed-door setting. What began as a playful jab grew into a career-ending altercation that would rock the entire love and hip-hop franchise to its foundation. Disagreements prior to the actual reunion episode. No cameras, no pressure, just an opportunity to make amends. At least that was the goal. However, when egos, grudges, and drama-hungry reality TV stars are in the same room, it's just a Kirk and Mendeecees had never been close. But they respected each other until recently, when whispers began to circulate that Ems had been talking about Reckless behind Kirk's back. It was just a matter of time until something dramatic happened, and that night it did. Kirk first dismissed his accusation that he was a washed-up has-been who only remained relevant because to Rashid's hustle, arguing that love and hip-hop lived on drama and that loose lips were nothing new. However, after more people came forward, Kirk changed his mind. The whispers escalated into full-fledged accusations, with Ems apparently informing producers that Kirk was desperate to start a phony quarrel because Mendeecees had carried things too far for Kirk to ignore. Remain on the program, Becky was a liability, adding nothing new to the brand other than old scandals and tire drama for Kirk, who had the audacity to tell the cast members, "I'm the one holding the show back." Prior to the battle, this man had just been released from prison, and now he believes he is in control. It wasn't just about ego, it was about respect, and Kirk wasn't going to allow someone like me to denigrate his heritage. According to insiders, Kirk pulled Mendeecees aside from wanting to resolve things, man to man, during the reunion recording. Mendeecees weren't backing down. If you're worried about what I'm saying, perhaps you should fix what's broken. Mendeecees allegedly said Kirk in an arrogant tone. His jaw clenched and his face twisted, and that was all it took for what had begun as a heated argument to escalate into a full-fledged screening match, with the producers and cast members in utter disbelief that he was a guest on this show. I had already developed this. Before security could respond, Kirk shoved Ems hard, sending him stumbling back into a chair that was just in front of him. You even arrived here when Kirk snapped and pointed a finger at Mendeecees' men. He only chuckled, a slow mocking laugh that sent Kirk over the brink. When things got out of hand, Ems sprang forward and grabbed Kirk's shirt. In a matter of seconds, chairs were flying, glasses were shattered, cast members were screaming, and security hurried in to try to break them up. But both men Rashida was frantically attempting to pull Kirk away while Yandy Smith, Mendeecees' wife, yelled at him to stop. But it was too late and the harm had already been done. What's worse is that it was all captured on camera. After they took out their phones, the situation became tense. And as soon as Kirk and Em threw hands, the video began to go viral. Within minutes, clips began to appear on social media, and fans, where the Love and Hype Hop production team, was in full panic mode as surprised comments poured in. This isn't your typical reality TV drama, and one producer reportedly declared that the fight was career-ending because it was so vicious and furious. No option but to stop production right now. Kirk was dragged into a room, still enraged, and his face was twisted with anger. Behind the scenes, the bosses were already deciding that no one should anticipate it because, although altercations were frequent on reality TV, what transpired was excessively violent, dangerous, and damaging, and an emergency meeting had been called before the evening was even ended. The verdict. The fallout from the battle was quick and nasty within hours. The Love and Hip Hop, Kirk Frost, and Mendeecees Harris were about to receive the harshest punishment of their careers, and this time there was no turning back. It wasn't only broken chairs and shattered Evos that the production team was dealing with. The network executives were furious as well. There had been previous clashes. It's true that reality TV thrives on drama, and a little. Although pushing and shoving were to be expected, this was unusual since two long-standing cast members were throwing up in a way that could have caused significant harm. To make matters worse, the film had been released, and fans had seen it everywhere. I've already analysed every second of the video that shows Kirk pushing Ems, how Ems rushed at him, the background noise of glass shattering, and the frenzied reactions on social media that I never imagined seeing. Love and Hip Hop will never be the same once Kirk and Mendeecees get into a full-on fight one day. This fight was so intense that Mendeecees just snapped. If Kirk and MC get fired for this, I'm done watching. Fans were split. Some chose Kirk's side, while some Team Mendeecees argued that Kirk had no business touching someone first. Others said that Mendeecees had no right to be disparaging a Love and Hip Hop original. However, there was one thing that all of them agreed upon: most significant scandals in the franchise's history, and the executives were concerned about more than just the public's opinion. They were also concerned about their reputation. The battle had escalated beyond what they could portray as entertaining television, and they were legal. The decision was made because advertisers were growing anxious that allowing Kirk and MC to remain would send the incorrect message. The following morning, Kirk and Mendeecees received a call officially terminating their employment with Love and Hip. They haven't done anything like this before, so they need me. I've been here since the beginning. Hope no warning, no second chances. Just gone. Kirk was stunned. This ain't real, he reportedly told Rashida, as he paced back and forth in their Atlanta home. They had no choice, but Kirk wasn't trying to hear it, and in his eyes, he wasn't just another cast member. He was Love and Hip. Rashida knew better though, because she had anticipated this. Kirk, you quit your hands on Ems, she told him when he received the call. He was sitting in his chair. Hop royalty had been on the show for more than 10 years, created his brand, made money moves, and now they were throwing him aside as if he were nothing more than a man with his own problems. He shook his head and said, I bring too much to this show. They need me. But Yandy wasn't going to let this happen. He was in the living room with Yandy when he heard the words, letting you go. After we brought STORYINS to this show, she snapped and grabbed her phone, saying, "They're just going to throw you out after everything." She wasn't mistaken. Yandy and Mendeecees had carried several seasons. Yandy mumbled, massaging her temples, "I told you not to let him get to you. And look, we'd done the deal." His romance, his legal fights, and his family's problems had all been prime reality TV gold. But none of that mattered. Calls continued to come in. Blogs picked up the story. Other cast members added their thoughts. And before long, new reports about Kirk Frost and MC Harris Blake T from All Reality TV was circulating. And it wasn't only about the fight. According to sources, some networks were now reluctant to collaborate with them because some executives believed they were too much of a liability. Given how rapidly things had gotten out of hand, no one wanted to take that chance. And one producer even warned the source. If Kirk and Mendeecees couldn't maintain professionalism, how can we trust them on another show? It was like a cascade of sponsorship negotiations that were put on hold. The spin-off's entire reality TV careers were now in ruins. But Kirk and the men weren't going down without a fight. Mendeecees called his legal team to ask whether he could challenge the ruling and file a lawsuit for unjust compensation. Kirk, however, was thinking bigger. If they think I'm just going to vanish, they have another thing coming. Kirk reportedly told, "A buddy, I built my name, I don't need love." It may be the firings of Kirk and MDC sent shockwaves through the entertainment world, permanently altering MC's reality TV careers. Both men were not only reality TV stars, but also staples of the genre that were ingrained in its very fabric. Combining love and hip-hop, the program had made them household names, and now they were being pushed out. But neither Kirk nor the guys of DCS were prepared to silently give up their fame. They weren't going to be forgotten in the annals of reality TV. Kirk quickly got to work because he understood the power of public perception and recognized that he needed to control the narrative rather than run away from the spotlight if he wanted to save his career. Of the tale, he sat down for an exclusive interview with the big side a few days after this termination, sharing his take on the situation. "Listen," Kirk started staring straight into the camera. "Describing what transpired between me and Mendeecees was regrettable, but I was ultimately defending my honor. You don't attack me in that way, especially on my own territory. I've been involved with hip-hop and love since day one, and I've worked hard for them to abruptly cut me off like that." He wasn't only upset about the altercation. Kirk felt deceived by the show he had helped create, which had featured his highs and lows, family strife, and business endeavors. Now, with one negative incident, all seemed to be lost, but Kirk was determined to keep going, telling his admirers that even if they might have closed the door on me, there are still plenty of other doors I can open. Meanwhile, Mendeecees was coping with his own whirlwind. He was hurt by his dismissal from Love and Hip Hop, but he wasn't going to lie down and take it as Kirk Men did. Mendeecees understood the importance of controlling the narrative, so he too contacted the media, but his strategy was different from focusing on. He started with an emotional Instagram live session, discussing his journey through the struggle Mendeecees. "From my legal battles to my time away from my family, I've always addressed obstacles head-on. Is just another challenge, but I'll tell you this. I don't regret standing up for myself. I've always been respectful, and I won't tolerate disrespect from anyone, on or off camera. Of course." Yandy was by his side, her face a mask of control, and she was furious. Felt angry and furious. But she also understood how the game operated since she had worked on reality TV long enough to know that sometimes you have to take the hits and get back up stronger. "Trust me, you haven't seen me last," she said. Behind closed doors, Mendeecees wasn't entirely convinced. that being cut off from love and hip-hop was more than just a professional setback. It was a personal one. During the live session, their supporters said that he had experienced worse things than this, and we always emerged victorious. One evening, he told Yandy, "I don't know if we're going to bounce back from this." He had dedicated years of his life to the show and exposed his soul on camera, and now it felt like all of that was being snatched away with one mistake. This is our bread and butter, and without love and hip-hop, what's left? The weight of the situation finally hit him, but instead of moping, Yandy was already planning their next course of action. We'll make something happen. The true shock came when he learned that not only had Perk and Ems been fired, they were also being banned from reality. She told him that we had our own brand now, and that the audience loved us, in addition to the show. Though it initially appeared to be just another piece of gossip, whispers rumors that no other reality show wanted to touch them began to spread around the entertainment industry. As the days passed, the whispers gained. According to Insider, reality TV thrives on drama, but things went too far, and no one wants to deal with Kirk and Mendeecees being deemed too hazardous to cast. Things was confirmed by various sources from multiple networks. The news hit Kirk like a punch to the gut because of the possible legal fallout or the chance that they will lose control once more. Getting dismissed from love and hip-hop was terrible enough, but getting blacklisted was a career finished. "I'm not going to be no hasp," Kirk informed Rashida one evening, his irritation in his voice clear as he said, without reality TV, Kirk's brand would lose visibility, and his influence and income would dry up. Rashida remained calm in Kirk's storms, attempt to comfort him that will work things out, saying, "Baby, you've got too much hustle in you to let this be the end." Kirk wasn't convinced though. "Blackball me, nah. I've built too much to let it all crumble." Understood that it would be difficult for him to remain relevant without television. He was a businessman, but his reputation and face were what kept his ventures afloat. Without that publicity, everything could collapse on the other side. Opportunities that had previously poured in were now drying up, and brands weren't contacting him on social media. Mendeecees was also feeling the strain, and his phone had gone strangely dead, was dropping, as if the altercation had caused Traer to be placed on an industry-wide freeze-out. "We need to act quickly," Mendeecees told Yandy, his annoyance evident in his voice. "I'm not going to be blacklisted. This isn't how my story ends. Yandy ever though. If they don't want us on their shows, we'll build our own show because we don't need them. We have the following, we have the fan base, and the strategist already has a plan. Let's do this," she added firmly. However, despite their audacious statements, Kirk and Mendeecees were aware that they were up against a formidable opponent. Being blacklisted was not a minor inconvenience in the reality TV industry. It was more than just not being cast in shows. It involved being excluded from a whole industry, and as the days stretched into weeks, the situation's seriousness only increased. They had centered their lives on the success and fame of reality TV, and now they were confronted with the very real potential that it might all fall apart. Could they really recover? Or had their altercations signaled the end of their reality TV show? The quiet was deafening. Kirk Frost and Mendeecees Harris, two of the most well-known figures in love, the business that had benefited from their drama, conflicts and plots, had turned its back on them. And no more producers were requesting confessions. Hip-hop was suddenly confronted with the unpleasant reality of being blacklisted. Interviews, no more cameras watching them everywhere, and no more large checks from reality TV. At first, both men don't think it's true because they've experienced highs and lows before, including public scandals, accusations of cheating, and business failures. But they had always recovered, but Kirk saw something was different this time. He realized this when he began contacting other reality shows, in the hopes of getting a seat on another franchise with which he had ties. He had been working with industry professionals for years, so he thought that someone would give him a chance. However, every contact ended the same way. "Man, I wish I could help you," a producer said in a regretful tone. But the network didn't want that type of heat. The fight was too much at the moment, and no one wanted the backlash. It was about Kirk's reputation now, not just as a reality star who had been involved in an incident. He was now also known as Rashida observed the change in her husband right once. He had become a reality TV veteran, and now spent his days pacing the house with his phone glued to his hand. He was reckless, temperamental, and worst of all, awful for business. Rashida tried to comfort him one evening that you had the clothes stores and Frost Bistro. But Kirk cut her off, shook his head and said, "That's not the point, Rashida. This is what I do." He was waiting for a call that never came. "But we could make this work, baby. This is who I am. If they reject me, how can I remain relevant and how can we maintain the brand?" Rashida had no response, and NYC's was occupied with his personal problems while Yandy was busy planning how to turn their personal brand into something more. Mendeecees found himself in a strange and uncertain place. He had spent his entire life hustling to keep ahead and make moves, but now it seemed like every door was Yandy was not one to wait for possibilities to present herself. If the business didn't want them, they would create their own platform. She began contacting streaming services after getting shut down before he could even knock. "We can take this to YouTube, Z Network, Tubi, anywhere we want. We own our brand, and we don't need their services." Independent production firms, or even social media platforms, she assured Mendeecees. "We can hire cameras." And our own M's wanted to believe her, but he wasn't sure that it wasn't the same Yandy. "If we're not on TV, our people will still care, because we make them care." To provide them with something they can't ignore. While the Blacklist's fallout was circulating, fans were furious, and discussions on social media over whether Kirk and Mendeecees should be banned, or if they were being unfairly punished. They created hip hop and love. One fan wrote on Twitter, "Now they're just being tossed aside like they never mattered." Others weren't as kind. They knew what they were doing. Another user said, "This is not your typical drama. They battled on set. What did they expect?" The anger wasn't limited to the internet. It also included reality TV veterans, former cast members, and even producers, who were victorious in Stevie J, another love and hip-hop. "I've been in this game for years, and let me tell you, there's a line you don't cross," according to a foreign cast member on a podcast. "Kirk and I crossed it, but others weren't so sure and wanted us to act out on TV." Despite the public outcry, the network's decision remained solid. Kirk and I were out, and there were no second takes. The interview is what attracts views. But the moment it gets too real, we're too much bullshit. He had been in the entertainment business long enough to know his rights if the network wanted to blacklist him. So it's likely that's when Kirk determined he wasn't leaving without a fight, a legal fight, but they owed him this. The Leo dispute wasn't only about Kirk's contract. He wanted damages as well. Kirk told his lawyer, "This is about my legacy," referring to the fight. "They used me for years.